was just told we're moving. I just want to go home.
Hello?
Grandpa! Grandma!
Your mom needs a little help.
What about what I need?
Clara, you need to give it a chance here.
What is this place?
Whatever you saw, remember, everything is going to be all right.
I know it's a lot, all this change that we've been through.
I miss my friends back home.
Do you want to talk about it?
I don't.
Your whole life has changed. It's okay to be angry,
I didn't choose to move here.
but don't block out the people who love you.
The journey makes us stronger.
I just got scared. Remember what Mom used to say? We're stronger together. Can I help you?
The three of us, we need to look after each other.
Sometimes, when things feel like they're ending, they're really just beginning.
Hello, I'm Susan Bai, and I would like to join the Australian Children's Television Foundation in acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that we're presenting on, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and to pay our respects to elders past and present. We celebrate the fact that stories have been told on this land for thousands of years, for longer than anywhere else in the world. And I'm so delighted to be here today to talk about the Tales from Outer Suburbia TV series and to take you through the education resource that I created in collaboration with Bridget Hanna, Education Manager at the Australian Children's Television Foundation. We're both passionate about this series and inspired by the creative energy which the teams at Flying Bark and Highly Spirited brought to their work on the show, and how effectively they collaborated with Shaun Tan to ensure that this adaptation stayed true to his unique way of representing the strangeness in the everyday. One of the things that stood out for me as I worked with Bridget on this resource was how layered each episode is. Each time I rewatch an episode, I see, hear, or wonder something new. There are also scenes such as the ever-expanding poetry ball, Eric's captivating gift to the family, the flickering images on the drive-in screen, and the blue horse in the art gallery that remain curious and surprising no matter how often I view them. To give you a bit of background to the series, it is inspired by Shaun Tan's book of the same name, published in 2008. This anthology of short stories has its roots in Shaun Tan's experience of growing up in outer suburban Perth during the 1980s. Of his approach, he has said, "I've always found the idea of suburban fantasy very appealing in my own work as well as those of other writers and artists because of the contrast between the mundane and extraordinary, the effect of which can be amusing or unsettling and potentially thought-provoking." You'll find that I'll be using quite a few Shaun Tan quotes today, and we've also included a number in the resource because he has such a unique vision and is also so perceptive about his purpose and ideas. Shaun Tan played a central role in the development of the show, helping to develop his stories into a series with a narrative arc that builds character, theme, and emotional resonance. Accordingly, the series is not so much an adaptation of the original book, but a reimagining and expansion of its ideas into a connected narrative world. While each episode draws on one of the original stories, the way these stories are adapted differs each time. Now, I highly recommend that you have at least one copy of the book to refer to when you're exploring the series with your students. They'll be fascinated by the different ways that the stories have been integrated into each episode. Now note for the TV show, 9 stories were selected from the 15 stories included in the anthology, and the episode Moonfish has its source in Shaun Tan's 2018 anthology, Tales from the Inner City. Of the series, Shaun Tan has said, "Well, it may be an odd thing to say, but I hope audiences will be puzzled, not confused or bewildered, but also not entirely understanding what, how or why things are happening in the story the way they do." In writing the resource, we've foregrounded this idea, encouraging students to ask questions, build their own meanings, and recognise the unexpected within the familiar. Shaun Tan and the production team are very proud of this series and have been very keen to support the development of these learning resources. You'll see that Shaun has drawn us this beautiful landing page as a way for you and your students to navigate your way into the resource. We're doing a brief scroll through, and you can see what a magical way this is to approach the navigation of this resource. It's an example of how supportive Shaun has been in connecting the show to schools and classrooms. He and the production team have also shared a wealth of behind-the-scenes artwork and designs, some of which I will be sharing with you later. You may have noticed during the scroll through that there is a link to the teacher guide, which provides a framework for getting started, a brief overview of series episodes, an introduction to how the resource is structured, and curriculum links. As we'll detail in this session, each episode section includes a suite of activities that guide tuning in, theme explorations, creative response, page-to-screen comparisons, and behind-the-scenes production insights. We also have dotted through we have dotted throughout the activities ready to print or digital worksheets that support independent and group work. In the For Teachers section, we've also highlighted that this resource offers a flexible creative learning journey where teachers are encouraged to use this resource in the way that best suits their interests, curriculum, focus and time. Theme and character develop across the series, and it rewards sustained viewing. However, each episode also stands alone, offering you a great deal of flexibility. You can decide to choose to integrate it into your learning program in multiple ways. You may decide to explore the whole series with your students, choose to focus on a selected few episodes, or prefer to dig deep into a single episode. With this in mind, we've designed the resource to be open and adaptable, what we think of as a choose-your-own learning adventure. After you've had a chance to explore the teacher guide, you can then take a look at the About section, which includes introductory videos from Shaun Tan and from key creatives involved in the production. You may like to show some of these to your students. We find that young people are increasingly curious to get a glimpse behind the scenes. And in the case of the creative team who contributed to Tales from Outer Suburbia, their pride in their work and their affection for the show is both delightful and inspiring. Now here's a brief example where you can hear from Shaun Tan and the director, Noel.
It's a book that kind of evolved by itself. I didn't know it was a book when I started, but I collected little bits and pieces from my sketchbooks. So some were drawings without stories, some were stories without drawings, some were a bit of both. And they're often like small scraps. They all had something in common, which is they seem to be set in the landscape of my childhood. It has something to do with childhood memory. Often the characters were children. I didn't really know why. And they were in an ordinary suburb, very much like the one that I grew up in. And rather than spend too much time elaborating all these stories into detailed, plot-driven kind of things, which one often is encouraged to do by a publisher, I thought, what if I just have very short, simple, dreamlike things, and I put them all together with pictures that are each unique to the story, one after the other, and just have it like that. What would that look like?
He's got these beautiful, surreal, emotional stories. The stories are quite short, but they're really powerful, and his artwork's gorgeous. And so we thought we would love to make a show based on this book. Something that I remember from childhood that we brought into the show was the style of the cars. So growing up, I always remember the look of these 70s cars that everybody had, these old-fashioned cheap cars. And I remember when we designed the car for the family and I showed it to Shaun, his first thought was, oh, that's the car I had when I grew up.
Great job, Mum.
In this section, you'll also discover 2 digital books that present character designs and concept art respectively. These are an incredible resource. It's an indication of how proud the artists are of their work that they have shared their designs so generously. You'll find that your visual learners are especially engaged by these insights into the creative pre-production process. I now want to introduce you to how the activities are structured throughout the 10 episodes. This will help you decide which approaches and activities will work best within your learning program. In designing the activities, I drew on Shaun Tan's imaginative approach to storytelling and the way his work encourages readers and viewers to activate their interpretive skills, ask questions, and discover their own meanings. In fact, I've included this wonderful quote twice in the resource. I find that what really makes stories work are those gaps where it's actually very respectful to the audience and saying, you're an intelligent, creative dreamer. You add in your own interpretation here and ask your own questions. Bridget and I really wanted to run with the belief that your students are intelligent, creative dreamers, as we think that that is the magic at the heart of Shaun Tan's stories and the magic of this show, that it leaves so much room for viewers to build their own interpretations and responses. In each episode unit, you'll find reflect, explore, and create activities that take students on a journey from initial response to deeper thinking and then to analysis and creative engagement. Short clips as well as production assets ensure that students have plenty of reference material to guide their responses, and, when appropriate, worksheets provide prompts and directions. Following on from these reflection, analytic, and create activities, each episode unit includes a page to screen focus and concludes with an illuminating peek behind the scenes. So let's dig into some examples. Each episode section begins with a reflection activity that helps students tune in and think about their response to what they have just seen. They are then encouraged to share their responses with others. Each of these introductory icebreaker activities is different so as to keep responses fresh, but also to deepen students' thinking and build on the idea of the class working together to share ideas and discover new narrative elements. These initial reflection activities have the aim of encouraging students to lean into the unexpectedness of the Tales from Outer Suburbia narrative and to feel confident about not having all the answers. The tuning in activities move between personal reflection and shared discovery. It is impactful for learners to take time to reflect on their individual response to an episode, but also productive for them to work together to share ideas and build their interpretation. In later episodes, as the narrative evolves, the tuning in activities encourage deeper thinking. So if you're planning to focus on just 1 or 2 episodes, you may find the tuning in activities for episodes 1 or 2 will work best for you and your students, regardless of the episode you are choosing to explore. In episode 1, Water Buffalo, the reflect and explore activities highlight the way the show places the familiar and the unexpected in a kind of complementary relationship. And I'll just give you a moment to have a bit of a look at the activities. In episode 4, Make a Friend, the tuning in activity centres on the 2 story strands around which the episode is structured: the comedy of Pim's dino friend and the mystery of the sleeping girl. And I should add here that one of the joys of the series is the way that it balances comedic and emotionally impactful story strands. So once again, I'll just give you a moment just to have a little bit of a look at that. When responding to the final episode, Turning Back, Learners begin by writing a reflective response about a scene that has stayed with them. This gives them a chance to reflect on their personal response to the narrative journey that they have been taken on, not just in the episode, but across the series. They then connect with other class members to share what stood out for them. You might notice there that we have got 3 headings: resolved, unanswered and changed. And I really like the fact that with this show, there are things that remain unanswered, and I think that's part of the joy of it. After having begun the conversation about an episode and activated students to share their initial responses and ideas, subsequent activities dig into themes, narrative elements such as character and world, and stylistic elements including animation style and production design. The series presents an invaluable opportunity to explore important themes and issues with your students relating to family, community, change, belonging, identity, and grief. In the episode Broken Toys, Pim and Clara's encounter with the deep sea diver from another time and place connects with their own feelings of displacement and helps build their sense of belonging. To explore this theme, learners watch a short clip of Pim and the diver and observe how the diver's dislocation is communicated through sound, camera, and setting. And then they move on to look at how the theme of belonging plays out across the episode. A worksheet is provided to support student discussion and response. Inner Courtyard provides an opportunity to explore memory and identity, while Badlands looks at how hard it is to resist those innermost fears that are too powerful to put into words. Within the surreal world of the series, these themes are no longer abstract ideas, but come to life through the powerful use of metaphor and symbolic representation. You'll find that this approach taken by the series creators will provide you with an invaluable opportunity to engage your students in deep thinking about the very human and relatable feelings explored in the series. For instance, in Moonfish, the idea that someone can drown in grief is visualised in a scene between Clara and her grandmother. And in Turning Back, Pim's fears about Clara growing up and leaving him behind are communicated when a torn map leads the siblings to the edge of the world. The rich approach to narrative in the Tales from Outer Suburbia series provides countless opportunities for analysis. A standout feature is the design and development of the characters. The characters created for the series are distinctive and develop in complexity through the course of the show. So the resource includes several opportunities for digging into characterisation. I've already shown you that incredible digital book containing a wealth of character designs by art director Thomas Campy, which you and your students will find to be really, really helpful resource as you dig deep into characterisation. In episode 1, the main characters are introduced in a 1-minute scene where viewers are given information about who the characters are and how they relate to each other. Watch this short scene, and as you watch it, make a note of everything you learn about each of the characters and the different ways that this information is communicated.
I just want to go home.
Clara, this is our new home.
Oh, come on.
Hello?
Grandpa! Grandma! Hello!
Give me a hug, my little pup.
Oh, Clara, look at all you're getting. You're almost as tall as me. Oh, we've missed you, Lucy Goosey.
We've missed you too.
Got your nose.
Do me, Grandpa! Do me, Grandpa!
I know it's stupid, but I feel naked without it.
These things take time.
Clara, come on! It is a dungeon. Oh, there must be dragons. Got a flame torch, Dragon Master? Mum, the lights are broken.
Like my dreams. I know, honey!
Every time I watch this clip, I notice something new, and I'm sure you noticed heaps of things as well. This clip introduces our first worksheet, which encourages students to read the characters and identify what is being communicated through voice, gesture, and design. As the series unfolds, the grandparent characters become increasingly central to the narrative. The episode entitled Badlands provides a chance for students to dig deep into the grandparent characters and to build their understanding of their narrative purpose. One of the very refreshing elements of Tales from Outer Suburbia is its multi-generational approach. It's delightful to see older characters represented as quirky individuals rather than stereotypes. When responding to the final episode and the series as a sustained narrative, learners look at how the two protagonists, Clara and Pim, have developed and changed over the course of the show, mapping their emotional journey alongside events and challenges. The mysterious figures of Kat, Esme and the sleeping girl provide further scope for thinking about character, internal conflict, and the power of grief to fragment our understanding of who we are. The series offers countless opportunities for extending students' screen and media literacy through analysing production design and animation style. The director of the series, Noel, was keen to draw on the look of stop motion, even though the series is made in a computer. So the characters look and move like puppets and their world looks handmade. We've homed in on the animation style with a clip from Make a Friend. The focus on animation style is supported with an activity that helps students build descriptive vocabulary for analytic writing, and we also provide a scaffold to help them organise their interpretive response. I'll give you a moment to take note of some of the descriptive words we have provided, and when you watch the clip, you can decide which ones most effectively communicate what you noticed about the style of the animation.
Dinosaur, dinosaur, rise up from the ground and roar. Please, 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 please. Yes! You're real! Wow! Want to play a game? This is a soccer ball, and that's the goal. You stand here, kick the ball in the goal. Goal! Faster, faster!
I love all of that, but I particularly love the animation of the water. I think that is just so beautiful. So this activity where we explore animation is picked up again when students respond to an exquisite 2D animation sequence in the Eric episode. In fact, the series experiments with a range of animation styles, often using 2D animation to communicate creativity and emotion. Distant Rain provides a focus for exploring how image and sound communicate mood and atmosphere. In Moonfish, students reflect on how characters' emotions are communicated to the audience through storytelling techniques such as dialogue, imagery, sound, and atmosphere. They explore how feelings are often shown rather than explicitly explained. They then respond creatively by representing a character's inner world through a diary entry, storyboard or comic, or visual artwork that communicates emotion and mood to an audience. So this leads us to talk a bit more about the creative activities in the resource. Creative activities are in fact at the heart of the resource and connect with Shaun Tan's hopes for the series. He has said, "I hope that some young viewers will be inspired to write, illustrate, and even animate their own stories about personal experiences with a few little oddities thrown in. following the Tales from Outer Suburbia recipe of how things that don't make sense can still make sense. This seems to be the journey taken by the principal characters in the story, and it's the journey, arguably, that we're all on out here in the real world. As in the moonfish example, encouraging students to respond creatively to a text is an outstanding way for them to build their analytic understanding as well as to explore themes and ideas. And I should add that many fun and imaginative creative activities in this resource were designed by Bridget Hanna. We had such a good time working together. In the water buffalo section, we kick off the creative activities with this concept artwork created by Shaun Tan and this still from the series. And we ask learners to look around their own area and find an overlooked place that will activate their imaginations. What does it look like? How does it feel? Who might have passed through it before? They then create a concept drawing of their forgotten place inspired by Shaun Tan's artwork. And this leads into a writing task. Now write a short story inspired by this place. Think about the secrets it might hold, whether something magical or unexpected could happen there, and who might discover it, and what they would find. The unforgettable episode Distant Rain is about the power of expressing feelings through writing and drawing, while adding a mystical element where scattered words and phrases accrue special meanings for a particular reader. We've provided 2 creative activities to choose from. One invites a piece of writing from the perspective of one of the characters in response to the words that appear, while the other invites students to create their own storm of words using cutouts and to let the random mix of words guide their ideas. This second activity was designed by Bridget, and I love the fact that she has suggested using a fan to replicate the storm in the episode. She does add the proviso, if your teacher allows it. After meeting Pim's dino friend, students will love designing their own special friend or pet character and have fun sharing their designs with the rest of the class. When exploring Eric and thinking about difference, students plan a small space where Eric could feel safe, welcome and curious. After planning and sketching this space, they can then build it inside a small box. They can then stack and connect the boxes to create one shared village for Eric and his family to explore. In an extension activity, students imagine how the human world looks from Eric's perspective and write a letter back home where he describes his experiences. I think years 7 and 8 students would do well with this challenge. By episode 10, we're asking students to be commissioning art directors and to write a brief for the design of the cityscape. Something that you'll discover that the show inspires is multiple ways in for students with different learning styles. And you can imagine how this activity will encourage visual learners to use writing to share their creative ideas. So each unit includes a set of page-to-screen activities. The activities for Water Buffalo highlight how both page and screen stories are an invitation to fill in the gaps as intelligent, creative dreamers. We want students to be excited by the spaces and gaps that Shaun Tan sees as such an important part of his stories and that the creative team at Flying Bark have leaned into when making the series. This can be a whole class, partner or individual activity. Shaun Tan says his stories invite readers to be co-creators, and we ask them to compare the book and the episode. How does each version leave space for the audience to imagine or interpret? How does sound, movement and performance change the experience? Which version feels more mysterious and why? Students draw 2 columns, label the first column story and the second column episode, and note similarities, differences, and what each version adds or leaves unsaid. In episode 2, Broken Toys, students compare the way that the mysterious diver is introduced in the original story and then in the TV series. This kind of comparative work builds students' understanding of different narrative forms, but also illuminates creative elements that each text shares. For instance, the captivating contrast between the strangeness of the diver and the ordinariness of the outer suburban world around him. In episode 4, Make a Friend, Pim's dino friend and the impact of his creation is a very different story from the original story, Make Your Own Pet, which is a step-by-step guide that results in a marmalade cat. Among other activities, a comparison between the story and the episode provides an opportunity for thinking about how picture books ask the reader to slow down and spend time with the story, while television narratives rely more on pace, movement, sound, and visual action to engage audiences. Each episode unit concludes with a sneak peek behind the scenes. We explore character and production design, the different stages of 3D animation production, and the role of animatics, concept art, music, and voice acting. Through the Eric episode, students examine the complexities involved in designing and animating a 2D character within a 3D environment. This is one of my favourite behind-the-scenes insights, as it was something that I hadn't thought about until it was pointed out by the production team. Because of the generosity and enthusiasm of the Flying Bark team and Shaun Tan, the examples used in these behind-the-scenes activities give students an authentic insight into the creative and technical processes behind an animation production. And as a bonus, the Eric unit now includes a video of Shaun Tan teaching students how to draw Eric. We've planned this resource to provide you with flexible and engaging ways to explore storytelling, visual literacy, creativity, and interpretation across a range of learning contexts. And we hope it encourages your students to enjoy being active meaning makers, readers, viewers, and creators who are willing to question, imagine, and collaborate. Tales from Outer Suburbia is a series that rewards curiosity, and this resource has been built to honour that spirit of inquiry and creative exploration. And now I'm wondering, Bridget, if we have any questions in the chat.
We have had a few come in, Susan. I'm going to move over and join you in here because I feel like that might be a bit easier. Hi, everyone. I'm Bridget, the person Susan has been talking about. Thank you so much for joining our session today. And thank you for the questions that have already been coming through. If anyone has any more, chuck them in now. Now is question time. We did have one come through, Susan, which I wrote down, and that was, and I actually really love this question, if a class only has time for one episode and one series of activities, which one would you suggest that they explore?
Oh, thank you for that question, because I have thought about that quite a lot. Because the episodes are also wonderful. But in fact, Eric, I've watched that in the cinema twice with primary school students, and they have absolutely loved it. So I think that Eric, and it stands alone really, really well. I think that Eric is a great one to do with primary school students, and I think they'll really enjoy that. For secondary school students, you can't go past Distant Rain. It is so thought-provoking. It's beautiful, but it's so thought-provoking, and the activities that are connected with it because of the nature of the story, I think they'll find them so stimulating. So I would suggest that for secondary students.
I'd pick the exact same ones. I think Susan and I have worked too closely on this project potentially.
Which is, in fact, one of the things that you'll discover as you start exploring it with your students. There's something about this show that when you start talking to other people about it, you just keep getting more and more excited and noticing new things and becoming more and more creative yourself, I think.
That's exactly it. I'm just having a look. Someone asked for about the how to draw Eric bit that you just mentioned then. So that was actually early last week. We did an interview with Shaun Tan, and we had lots and lots of schools booked into that. It might be some of the teachers that are joining today that actually came along to that, but there's a recording of that now online and you can watch the whole thing. There's especially Shaun talks about his writing and illustration projects for books, and then the adaptation process for the series. But then there's a case study with Eric where he actually reads that section of the book and then teaches students how to draw Eric. So I highly recommend watching that. I've put the link for it in the chat. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
And I think there's also something very special about that direct connection with the artist and creator. He also makes it seem so straightforward, doesn't it?
Yes, he does. I loved last week, just to share one bit of info with you all. One of the schools asked Shaun, "Where do you get your ideas from?" And he spoke about it, how it's actually wrong to say you need an idea for a story. You actually need two ideas, one that's based in reality and that is understandable, and the other that is a bit strange and odd. And bringing those two ideas together is how to make a good story. And so looking at his work from that perspective is just like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. But asking your students to do the same, and then asking them why, what's the reason behind a character doing something or an object doing something unexpected, I think is a really brilliant way of exploring his work, and getting your students to be those intelligent, creative dreamers, which we know they are. We just sometimes need to encourage that along a bit. I think that brings us to the end of our session. Teachers, I'm just going to put a feedback form in the chat for you now. If you wouldn't mind filling that out, it will take less than 2 minutes, and it just means that we can keep creating and offering free professional learning like this for you, which we really want to do. If you haven't already signed up for our e-newsletter as well, because that's where we share all of our free resources and events for both students and teachers. But please join me in the chat to thank Susan for all her brilliant work on this resource and on this presentation. I just love the way that Susan speaks so warmly and generously about this series, and it really speaks to how this series feels as you're watching it with an audience. You feel a part of this family that you see on screen. So many thanks to everyone that joined us today.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
And we hope to see you next time. Have a lovely day. Thanks, Susan. Thank you.